Hello, my name is Greg Jones, and today I would like to talk with you about the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. Before talking about the Second Amendment, it's important to know what it exactly says. It says, and I quote, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed," end quote. The ideological origins to the Second Amendment was discussed by Robert Shalhope in an article for the Journal of American History. In this article, he discussed many different people's perspectives, but there are two I want to focus on today. Irving Brandt was against the idea of letting citizens own guns. He believed that only the people that served in the militia should own a gun. On the other hand, Joel Barlow believed that all citizens should have a gun. It is their right and obligation. He says, and I quote, "Making every citizen a soldier and every soldier a citizen, not only permitting every man to arm, but obliging him to arm. It's not," end quote, "it's not a man's right or privilege, it's his obligation to arm himself. A weapon should not put fear into a man's fellow citizen, but it should make the government more mindful to not trample on the rights and liberties of its citizens." The arguments today about the Second Amendment are very broad, and there are many wide array of topics about it, but there are two I want to focus on today. The first is actually gun rights for the mentally disabled. This is actually discussed by Greg Procknow in an article for Disability and Society Journal. He said about the issue, and I quote, "Americans who are deemed through a court of law or other lawful authority as lacking mens rea, who are a danger to themselves or others, or who lack the mental wherewithal to manage their own affairs, are barred from gun ownership," end quote. Procknow is not discussing that all mentally disabled disabled people should have gun rights, access to guns. He's discussing the ones that are not prone to violent outbursts, the non-violent mentally disabled people. For example, he mentions the case of schizophrenics. And about schizophrenics, he says, and I quote, "They are 14 times more likely to be a victim of a violent crime than they are to be arrested for one," end quote. Yet they are barred from gun access, and they have no way to protect themselves. The second aspect I would like to discuss today is gun control. That's the major debate in 2018, and it has been for the last few years, and with every major shooting, it reoccurs and the debate intensifies. Now, in an article for Jama by Gostin and Duranske, they give some statistics, and I quote, "The United States accounts for 48% of all civilian-owned firearms globally, with a gun homicide rate 25 times higher than the average other high-income countries," end quote. Now, it's important to understand two court cases in the discussion of gun control. One is the 1939 court case of the United States versus Miller in 1939. In this case, Miller was arrested for owning a double-barrel shotgun. The owning of that gun was a violation of the National Firearms Act that was passed in 1934. He appealed against it and sued the United States because he believed this infringed upon his Second Amendment right. The court ruled against him because it was not his right, and they adhered very closely to that first part of the Second Amendment because he was not part of a militia. It was not an individual right. Now, in 2008, there was another court case of the District of Columbia versus Heller. Now, in this court case, in an article for the Duke Law Journal, Darrell Miller actually looked at the majority opinion written by Justice Scalia of the Supreme Court. And I quote, "The first clause concerning a well-regulated militia is prefatory. The second clause concerning the right of the people to keep and bear arms is operative. The operative portion unambiguously refers to individual rights, not collective rights, or rights that may be exercised only through participation in some corporate body. The text is easily understood. It preserves the right of individual people to have and carry weapons for purposes of confrontation," end quote. Gun control is a major issue in 2018. It's very commonly discussed on the news, Fox, CNN. But gun control is not the issue. Guns are not killing people. People use guns to kill people. It is not a need of the nation for gun control. The nation needs a religious revival. They need to return back to God and seek his face. As it says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, "If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land."